Curly is an enigma. Some people love him, some people hate him. I'm somewhere in between. What I will say, however, is that he is the single most interesting character analysis-wise. He's caring and loyal and believes everyone can be better no matter what, which ultimately leads to his downfall. But before we continue, spoiler warning for Mouthwashing. If you haven't checked it out already, it's an amazing game. The PS1 aesthetic paired with the horror of the story itself make for a great time. Definitely play it blind. As well as spoilers for Curly's monologues in the last one and then another. I will also be referring to He Who Shall Not Be Named as Jimbo. Now that that's out of the way, what the fuck is with the title? What are you doing exactly? Well, I'm starting a series that I may or may not finish, where I put characters of Mouthwashing with Tarot Major Arcana cards. Curly's main issue is his naivety and belief that anyone can change. This fits the meaning of the Fool card. The Fool card touches on themes of new beginnings, optimism, and inspires courage. Reversed, it talks about recklessness, being taken advantage of, and inconsideration. Let's start talking about the upright meanings. Curly is a good captain. Jimbo says himself that's all he ever hears. He's on good terms with the rest of the crew, they all trust him. If Anya didn't trust him, then why would she tell him about the pregnancy? He's good at what he does. However, he also wants a new beginning. It's the main aspiration that he has throughout the length of the game. In these monologues from the last one and then another, he says, "It's easy to get on this boat when you have to. You say to yourself, this is just temporary. Just until I get what I need. Got bigger things planned." Then suddenly you're 1 year in, 5 years, 10. First I couldn't stand the constant noise. Now I can't sleep without it. A lot of things can't follow you out here, but it also means the outside world moves on without you. Won't even notice until it's too late. Easy to get on, hard to leave. That is the first of 3 monologues that he has. This one specifically talks about how he wants to be more than a captain and only started working there as a temporary thing. His conversation with Jimbo at the beginning shows this want to leave and start anew as well. Is this enough? Should I stay here because I've been successful at it? A good long haul freighter, Captain. I think. Am I figured out? Is this all I'll ever be? This gets brought up later by Jimbo at the birthday party, where he tries to use it to paint Curly as the bad guy. The thing is, these aspirations are not inherently bad. They're normal human reactions to what I'm assuming would be this man's midlife crisis, considering he's been working for the Pony Express for over 10 years, and probably started working there sometime in his mid-20s. It's reasonable to want something new. Another thing about New Beginnings was something mentioned by Reddit user Forgot My Login Oops. They mention that as soon as Curly gets hurt in the cockpit, he essentially becomes Jimbo and Anya's quote-unquote baby. I'll put a screenshot on the screen. It adds a lot to the metaphorical meaning of the game, and it's a really neat way of viewing all the relationships between the characters. Maybe I'll write a video essay analyzing the cast through the lens of family roles. Maybe not, I'm lazy as fuck. The Fool card also touches on naivety, and that's Curly's main problem. He was such a good friend to everyone, including Jimbo, that he ignored the problems Jimbo had been causing. Even in a situation as bad as the sexual assault on Anya, he still believes it can be talked out. He's naive. This is a little complex though, as there are 2 arguments for what he had done and how he handled the assault. As captain, it is his responsibility to make sure that everyone is safe under his command. He's also responsible for keeping the peace. Some people argue that what he tried to do was damage control the situation without breaking any bonds that would make the rest of their 8-month trip difficult, to say the least. However, there were other things he could have done to keep everyone safe, since that should have been his first priority. He could have put Jimbo in the cryo chamber, he could have locked him away physically from the rest of the crew. If this was done, the entire game wouldn't exist. Everyone would have survived, and Curly would have been able to keep Anya safe. He didn't do this, however, and decided to speak to Jimbo instead, which caused him to initiate the crash and set the plot of the game into motion. Curly was naive and believed that Jimbo could be reasoned with, could be changed and become a better person, but Jimbo lacked the motivation motivation to try and be better. At this point in his story, his actions are already irredeemable. He didn't want to believe his close friend would do such a thing. There was no real right answer to this problem, but there definitely was a wrong way to go about it, and that's exactly what Curly did. The fact of the matter had not registered in his mind until right before the crash when he ran into the cockpit. This is shown through his conversation with Anya when she tells him she's pregnant. Listen to me, we can fix this. I've known him for a long time, okay? I'll talk to him. He thinks more about damage control instead of the ramifications of what his friend had done, or how Anya would have felt. He's more worried about the fact there's a situation he has to solve than solving the situation. He was blinded by his friendship with Jimmy. He was an enabler, and he was scared of the conflict. Moving on to the reverse side of the card, it talks about disregarding the consequences of people's actions, which he did with Jimbo, and the lack of commitment to either side, which he did in the Anya situation. He focuses on trying to be the middleman instead of committing to protecting the crew. The part of the card meaning that I want to touch on the most is the fool representing being taken advantage of or being used in someone else's plans. This is what Jimbo does with Curly for the majority of the game, all the way up until the end, when he uses him to paint himself as the hero. During the first few months after the crash, he uses Curly's state to keep the crew following him. He was co-pilot and now he's pilot, for better or worse. Actually, for far, far worse, he's a terrible human being anyways. He uses Anya asking him to give Curly his medication in order to guilt trip Anya, making her feel like she's the one in the wrong. This is when he does the figure out the door code speech. He's guilting Anya, and when she offers to do it, he refuses and does it himself. He even beats up Curly to relieve his frustrations. Jimbo sees Curly as nothing but a symbol to be idolized or something to be used, not as a human being. It's clear from the way that Jimbo treats Curly, but that's a conversation for a Jimbo-centric video. Curly is a man who tries his best. He had good intentions, but ultimately let his fear of choice take over him. He was scared to make a decision, scared to make a choice, scared to change, scared to side with Anya over his friend for years, and ultimately ends up being used by others to paint a story. Jimbo blames Curly for the crash, knowing that he was the one who caused it. In the end, Curly was played for a fool. The next video that I'm working on is Anya. Not sure which card I was gonna put for her. I was thinking maybe the Empress, probably the Empress, we'll see. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to check out the other video essay that I made recently, which should be on screen now. It's not an analysis of a video game or a character. It's more of a message of hope to other artists who have struggled like me. Hopefully you guys like it. Anyways, I'm off to rewatch that one clip of Daisuke dancing to Daisuke from Beatmania for like the 20th time.